Wake up, southeastern North Carolina. This is Curtis Wright on the beat. WFNC 640 AM, WAAV 980 AM. In studio, not on the phone, with all the energy that comes with it, is former congressman from New York, and that's Joseph DioGuardi, and also author of Unaccountable Congress. I'm going to twist your arm about continuing this rotation,
Sure.
because it's important for us to have people that can, in fact, articulate and break it down. The people have to be able to understand it and grasp it and see it, and not very many people can do that. You do that, and we so that when we say, okay, this is what we need to do, and will you come along with me, that they don't go just sort of in a fog. Oh, okay, and you do a great job at that. And we do want to talk about that right now. We want to talk about. We know now, we see this morass, this thing, this behemoth we've created, and all the mess that it creates. It's like a ripple effect. How do we start to turn it around? A balance, but they put forward cut, cap, and balance. That was a simple way of saying, let's at least start with three things, three checks and balances, and accountability. But how do we start to change it around?
Let's look at how people build houses. You want to build a big skyscraper, you better have a good foundation. You want to have a great America that continues to dominate the global economy, you got to have a good foundation. So where do we begin? We first have to begin with defining what government should be. And government, we have government at all levels. We have municipalities, we have cities, we have states, we have the federal government. So you have to begin with what is the role of the federal government, and what should be the role of the states and the other localities? Why is that important? Because when you move government too far away from the people, it's less accountable. It's easy for people to get away with things in Washington. But if it's close to where you are living, then you've got the right to get up. You can maybe do a vote at the local school board meeting. You can do a protest. You can get into the face of the people who are disturbing your quality of life. You can't do that anymore in Washington. It's very difficult. There's a disconnect. So you got to start with what is the role of government. We got to take much of what we're doing at the federal government level and get it back to the states. Don't forget, the states are sovereign. There are certain things the federal government can usurp. National security, things on nuclear energy, certain environmental issues, but it's gone too far. You don't need education at the federal level. It's got to go back to the states. Then you can talk about a balanced budget amendment. And yes, I believe that's one of the two things the Founding Fathers forgot about, that and term limits. But if you're going to have a balanced budget amendment, it has to be done on the right accounting principles. You need independent audits because they'll game us all over again. We need more accountability. We need accounting systems that work in the federal government. But more than that, we need leadership. We need people who are getting elected that know these things.
And what we're trying to say here is it's all backwards and flipped. For example, a politician coming into town, doing a facility tour, okay?
Photo op.
Okay. Then they go and have a breakfast with the same old people that get the same old tax dollars, that do the same old thing, make the same old speech and leave. What's been accomplished? Nothing. And then you go back to Washington and say, I was there, I talked to people. Well, what'd you do? That's nothing. There has to be, as you said, we need to bring government as close to the people. And in this sense, we need to bring it to the people that really produce jobs, people who create companies, people who have the ideas and take the risk to invest in companies. We've got to bring government right to them and connect them directly without these filters. And then we'll produce real data upon which decisions can be made instead of politics.
And that's the problem we've had. The connection is really not there in substance with the people. People today, you can't blame them. They are confused. They are distracted. Look at what's going on today in America. The unpredictability of government. What about the unpredictability of people who know someone that lost a job if they haven't lost theirs and are worried about their future?
Right.
So we need to find a way to connect to those people and let them feel that they have a way to change the system. Another question that has to be raised here, we talk about balanced budgets, we talk about the role of government. Are we a real democracy today?
Yeah.
And I found a quote from someone back in 1790. His name was Andrew Tyler Frazier. And guess what he said? A democracy will continue to exist up until the time that voters discover that they can vote themselves generous gifts from the public treasury. From that moment on, the majority always votes for the candidates who promise the most benefits from the public treasury, with the result that every democracy will finally collapse due to loose fiscal policy.
And when was that said?
This was 1790.
And
but this is probably what happened to Rome.
That's right. 240, 30 some years later, it has been so exaggerated. And that's the problem. That's what I asked you. I know we can't answer it today, but the question of today's generation is, how do we get back there?
Okay, we need this discussion all over America.
Yeah.
Curtis, you're doing a real public service. I'm delighted to be here. But how do we get this discussion around America? A substantive discussion about what is really going on. Talking about the numbers, talking about the checks and balances that we need, whether it's independent audits, a balanced budget amendment, term limits. How do we talk about a better electoral system? You know what I'd like to see more of? More accountants in America. You know, I belong to 4 groups: the Association of Government Accountants, the Institute of Management Accountants, the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants, and the New York State Society of CPAs. We have 50 state societies. And I'm saying to myself, where are the accountants? They need to get more involved in government at all levels. They need to throw their hat in the ring like I did back then. We have too many. You know how many attorneys there are right now in Washington? Forget it. Over half of the Congress are attorneys.
But respectfully, may I say, go further. Why are they not speaking out? Where are the ethical businessmen that know that 2 + 2 doesn't equal 10, grabbing the microphone, and for America, not for their pockets or their businesses, for America, speaking out?
One did, and his name was Peter Peterson. He made billions of dollars when he sold out his interest, and I think it was BlackRock Company or I forget the name, and he put $1 billion into the Peter Peterson Foundation. And its sole goal is to try to come up with the numbers that count, to balance the books. So we do have people who are business people trying to get involved. Informed people are the real power. That's why Jefferson said that information is the power of democracy. I love it. I was there serving with Ronald Reagan for 4 years, and it's amazing the kind of person he was. You know what he said about a government program? He says the closest thing to eternal life is a government program.
Congressman Joe DioGuardi. Thank you, Congressman, for being here. I was honored. I'm Curtis Wright. We'll be right back here on The Beat.